The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Ambassador Vexther of the Zynthian Empire stood at the central podium, his chitinous plates gleaming under the chamber's bioluminescent lights. Around him, representatives from 47 species murmured in their native tongues, creating a cacophony that the translation matrices struggled to parse. Order. Vexther's voice boomed through the chamber. We have detained the human colony ship Perseverance for illegal passage through Zynthian space. Their adults have been processed according to standard protocol, but we seek council guidance on an unusual matter. Arbiter Kalinara, a Velusian whose translucent form rippled with concern, leaned forward. What matter could possibly require an emergency session, Ambassador? We have imprisoned 147 human juveniles, Vexther announced. They've violated our territorial laws alongside their parents. However, we've encountered ... complications. A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Tekish of the Meridian Collective, humanity's closest ally in the galaxy, rose from his seat with such force that his chair clattered backward. You did what? Tekish's typically composed demeanor shattered. His three eyes widened in what could only be described as horror. Vexther, do you have any comprehension of what you've done? We followed standard detention protocols, Vexther replied defensively. The juveniles were separated by age groups and confined in secure facilities with adequate nutrition. Adequate nutrition. Tesh's voice trembled. You've separated them by age. Confined them? He turned to address the full council, his voice rising to a pitch that made several species translation devices emit distress signals. Does anyone here understand what human children are? Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Vexther's plates shifted uncomfortably. They are juvenile humans, underdeveloped members of their species. We have studied Terran biology extensively, biology. Teksh laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think this is about biology? He activated his holographic display, pulling up files that cascaded across the chamber's viewing screens. Let me educate this council about human young, since apparently our intelligence networks have catastrophically failed. Images appeared of human children in various states of distress, scientific data scrolling alongside them. Human juveniles are not simply small adults. Their neurological development is incomplete. They require constant social interaction, emotional regulation from caregivers, and above all, connection to their family units. Separation causes them profound psychological trauma. Many species separate offspring during detention, Vexther protested. It's standard procedure to prevent standard procedure? Teksh's shout silenced the chamber. Do you know what happened the last time human children were forcibly separated from their parents on a mass scale? Let me show you. The holographic displays shifted to historical records from Earth. Images of concentration camps, residential schools, family separations at borders. The data was accompanied by psychological studies, testimony recordings, and long-term trauma assessments. These events, Tesh continued, his voice now deadly quiet, are considered some of the greatest atrocities in human history, some of their most profound regrets as a species. The psychological scars lasted generations. Separating human children from their parents isn't just harmful, it's considered a crime against their very nature. High Arbiter Kalinara's form had turned a deep, troubled purple. Ambassador Teksh, surely you're exaggerating. Children are resilient across all species. Not like this, Teksh interrupted. Human children bond with their caregivers at a neurochemical level. The hormone oxytocin, stress hormone cortisol separation, triggers a cascade that their developing brains interpret as a survival threat. Some never recover. And that's not even addressing the human cultural response. What response? Vexther asked, though his tone suggested he was beginning to understand his error. Teksh pulled up another file. There's a reason the Meridian Collective has maintained peaceful relations with humanity for 3 centuries, while others have failed. We learned early what happens when you harm human offspring. He displayed records of conflicts, retaliations, and diplomatic incidents. Threaten a human adult, they'll negotiate. Threaten their children, and they become something else entirely. The chamber fell silent as the data spoke for itself. Civilizations that had detained human children, even accidentally, had faced consequences ranging from immediate military response to generations-long economic sanctions. One species had faced a human blockade that lasted 70 years, not because of the initial detention, but because they dismissed human concerns about their children's welfare as overreaction. "There's a human saying," Teksh continued, "Hell hath no fury like a parent protecting their young." And humans? They extend that protection to all their young, not just their biological offspring. Every human adult on that ship is currently experiencing a neurochemical cascade preparing them for warfare. Their cortisol and adrenaline levels are elevated, their aggression response is heightened. You've essentially armed a biological bomb. Dexter's plates had lost their gleam. But we followed standard protocols. "We didn't know that ignorance may have just started a war," Tex said flatly. "The Terran Federation's 4th Fleet is already en route. They'll arrive in 6 cycles. And Vexter? They're not coming to negotiate." High Arbiter Kalanara stood, her form shifting rapidly through the colors of emergency protocol. "What do you recommend, Ambassador Teksh?" "Immediate reunification of all family units. Full medical and psychological evaluation of every child by human medical personnel. Complete transparency with human authorities. And pray to whatever deities you acknowledge that the damage can be mitigated." Kesh's form seemed to sag. "Even then, there will be consequences. The humans have a long memory, especially regarding their children." Vexer spoke quietly. "We thought we were being lenient. Other species would have simply refused them entry entirely." "That would have been better," Teksh replied. "Much better. Because now you've touched the one thing in this galaxy that transforms humans from the curious, creative species we know into something far more dangerous." He looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. "Let this be a lesson to every species present. Humanity can forgive many transgressions. They're remarkably patient with cultural misunderstandings, territorial disputes, even accidental violence. But their children?" He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "Their children are the line you never ever cross." The emergency session ended with a unanimous vote to implement Kesh's recommendations immediately. As the ambassadors filed out, whispered conversations filled the corridors and new understandings spreading through the Galactic Council. Humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons, their technology, or their expanding territories. It was in their fierce, unyielding protection of their most vulnerable. And the galaxy had just learned that lesson in the harshest way possible. The Perseverance families were reunited within 2 cycles. The Terran Federation's 4th Fleet still arrived, but they came to escort their people home rather than wage war. The Zynthian Empire issued a formal apology and paid reparations that would fund human colony ships for a generation. But the real cost was measured differently. In galactic chambers and diplomatic circles, a new protocol emerged, whispered like a prayer: never harm the human young. Not from fear of their military might, but from the understanding that some bonds transcend species, and some lines should never be crossed. The humans had shown the galaxy something profound that day, that a civilization's true measure isn't in how it treats its equals, but in how fiercely it protects those who cannot protect themselves.